Okay, in the name of Lord Jesus Christ, we shall continue our study in the book of Nehemiah. So last week, we spent 4 classes going through the return of Nehemiah, and then we address upon the construction. Despite all the difficulties, we touch upon how Nehemiah able to rally the people by encouraging them, by being leading by example, so that the people in the city of Jerusalem were able to be promoted and able to be encouraged to target upon this rebuilding the wall for the holy city. In fact, the whole Nehemiah, the book of Nehemiah, we can divide the book into 3 major portions. The first portion is the exploration or the advancement. Let's go, let's do it, we can do it. Okay, so the first portion is known as breakthrough. Okay, breaking through. The second portion, as we will begin from today's class, is called strengthen or fortification. Okay, so after chapter 4, so very much at the end of chapter 4, they very much complete the construction job already. However, Nehemiah, the book of Nehemiah did not end at chapter 4, because the Bible wants to emphasize more than just a miracle that the physical wall of Israel were restored. The Bible wants to show us more and teach us more. So from chapter 5, now we begin to target upon the internal issue. That the first 4 chapters, as we say, is a breaking through. It's breakthrough from impossible, from nobody want to do anything about it, from like a sheep without shepherd, because no one is leading, by everybody only care about their own stuff. Now Nehemiah breakthrough, help to break through that kind of passive mentality, and begin and complete the job. But the first 4 chapters is only the first stage, which is to change, to break apart the wall, to break apart the old habit, to break apart the passive attitude, to break apart the concept of I can never do it. But then you need to fortify or strengthen. You need to be able to strengthen that kind of concept, that kind of mentality, that you want to continue to keep the wall erect, keep the change, to take the change and allow it to become a constant. That's when you need to fortify it. Just like if you want to build a sandcastle, you go to the seashore and you say, you know what, I'm building the sandcastle. People say, no, impossible. It takes so long. It's so much work to do. But you say, I'm doing it anyway. So you build the sandcastle, taking you hours and hours, and you build a beautiful sandcastle. But then if you don't do anything about the sandcastle. Few months after when the tide comes in, it wash away everything. So in order for you to have the sandcastle being able to continue to stand, then you need to do something to fortify it, to strengthen it. You might dig a long groove so that the water doesn't get anywhere close to your sandcastle, or you might just put cement so that instead of sand, you made it into a cement building or something to make it strong and able to stand against against the wave, against the tide. So start from chapter 5. Now Nehemiah turned from building the physical wall to build up, or shall we say, restore the spiritual wall in the house of Israel, in the people's heart. In fact, the wall has collapsed after their country destroyed, after their city burned, and after they lost their holy temple. Not only the physical wall collapsed, but internally that spiritual wall, that we are the children, we are the children of God, we are the elite, we have the protection of God. That wall collapsed also for many children of Israel. So now Nehemiah turned around, enter into the second stage, is to restore the faith of the people. Now let's continue to chapter 5. We are seeing now he is facing a dire situation, a great conflict among the people, and we called it social injustice. Let's go to chapter 5. Chapter 5, verse 1. And there was a great outcry of the people and their wives against their Jewish brethren, for there were those who said, we, our son, our daughter, and many, therefore let us get grain, that we may eat and live. Verse 3. There were also some who said, we have mortgaged our land and vineyard and houses that we may buy grain because of the famine. Verse 4. There were also those who said, we have borrowed money from for the king's tax on our land and vineyards, yet now our flesh is as the flesh of our brethren, our children as their children, and indeed we are forcing our sons and daughters to be slaves, and some of our daughters have been brought into slavery. It is not in our power to redeem them. For other men have our lands and vineyard. Verse 6. And I became very angry when I heard their outcry and these words. Okay? So now we are facing a great problem. Now we are facing an internal social conflict. But you have to remember, now we finished the war. Nehemiah, he came to Jerusalem with the intention to build the city wall, to restore the city wall. But now, for Nehemiah, his job is done. He can look at himself and say, wow, look at what kind of job that I have done. Yeah, the city wall has been restored. This is the glory of King David. Now I can go back to my palace and live my good life with my, the peace of my conscience, for I have done great for the Lord. Okay, so you know what? At this time, Nehemiah could totally convince himself by telling himself, my job is done. What a terrific job that I have done. God must remember. God must love me so much. God will reward me. Time for me to go back to the palace. But he did not. He did not. he actually prolonged his stay because now he is seeing something more serious, something more concerning other than building the physical wall, which is the collapsing of the unity of the people of Israel. Okay, so what do we see in here? We are seeing that the noble, now we again we mentioned about the noble. So immediately when we mention about the noble, what do you remember? It goes back to the nobles would not carry their load. Okay, so not only the nobles who were supposed to be the leader by showing an honorable example, who were supposed to be the head to lead the people to the right direction. Not only they were passive in construction, but now they were dragging Nehemiah's leg to pull him behind. When Nehemiah encouraged and mobilized the people to put away their personal interests and giving more to God for a greater cause. You know that in order to spend time to build the city wall, the people need to change their daily routine. The time that they used to use to make living, the time that they used to use to till the land, to take care of the crops, to prepare for the harvest, they took out their time to use it in the use it for the work of the Lord, because they were so compelled by the words of Nehemiah, so compelled by the love of God. So they decide, yes, we are going to do it. But you know what? That's a trade-off. There is a trade-off. The trade-off is that they need to put aside their daily duty in making living in order to have the time to work for the Lord. However, the nobles, they took advantage at the dedication of the people by giving them high interest loan, a loan that they were unable to repay, so that the nobles can come in and seize the house, the land, and also seize their children or even themselves as their slave. So now we are seeing a social injustice by taking advantage of the brethren. We want to touch upon the first point, whether it's legit to charge interest or not to the brethren. You might feel when I lend give a loan to someone, I am taking a financial risk, right? We are taking a financial risk that the loan might be defrauded, that the person might not pay me back. So in order to compensate my risk, I want to charge interest to cover for my risk. That's common. That's what we see in the financial institution, that they charge high interest rate if you want to take out a loan, either to buy a house or for your entrepreneur, for your business. Okay. You open a business, you want to borrow money from the bank. The bank doesn't know if you are going to be successful or not. So in order to take that risk, they want money, they want interest plus some guarantee, okay, which is common in our society and acceptable by our financial world. But what's the problem in here? The problem is that they were taking advantage, or shall we say, they are charging interest upon other people's livelihood. And this other people is no one but their brethren. So they are actually taking advantage at the dismay, at the devastation. They were taking advantage from the devastation of their brethren. That's where the problem is. If we look at a verse in the Bible, let's take a look at Exodus chapter 22. Exodus chapter 22, verse 25. Exodus 22 from 25 to 27. Can I ask Monica? Monica Huang, in Exodus 22, verse 25 to 27.
25. If you lend money to any of my people who are poor among you, you shall not be like a money lender to him. You shall not charge him interest. 26. If you ever take your neighbor's garment as a pledge, you shall return it to him before the sun goes down. 27. For that is his only covering. It is his garment for his skin. What will he sleep in? And it will be that when he cries to me, I will hear, for I am gracious.
Oh, thank you. You are also correct when you read, when you lend me, because in Proverbs chapter 19, it says that if you lend to the poor, you lend it to the Lord. Okay. Now we want to the verse that Monica just read for us. Here says that when you lend money to the poor who are having difficulties, you are helping them. You cannot charge interest. Not only that, if you are taking a collateral, taking something as a guarantee, like you take their clothes as guarantee, that by the sunset you need to return it because that's what they need. So now we are looking at two scenarios. If it is a pure business transaction, charging interest or not is your own choice. However, if it's regarding to emergency or regarding to dire need or regarding to their livelihood, the Lord does not allow any of us to take advantage upon our brethren. Let's put it in today's term. For example, if you are in need of some professional service, and you happen to know that there are some church members who are in that field, so you decide to go and ask that person, the church member, to help you to tend to your need by rendering their service. Please do not abuse the relationship as church members. You do not go to the person and ask them to render service to you, expecting for them to charge you nothing. Hey, we are in the church. You are supposed to do this for me for free, for we are brethren. Then you are being greedy. You are taking advantage of other people. Okay, so be careful. Second, please do remember, the person who you asked to render you service does not need to give you either service for free or giving you a discount. He doesn't owe you anything. if the person decide to give you a discount, then you need to show appreciation, because the person doesn't need to. Just, you know that we cannot expect, just because we are members, you owe me a discount. We call that greediness, because you are forcing someone to give you something that does not belong to you in the name of God. We call that greedy. But if the person feel that, hey, we are church members, no problem, I love to help you, because in the church now we trust each other. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I can give you a discount. If the person give you a discount, you need to show appreciation, knowing that the person doesn't need to. Even the person charge you full price, it's their right to charge you the full price. What is your right? Your right is you get to choose whether to use the person or not. You don't have to. You don't have to. Nobody force you that you must get the service from a church member. You're not obligated. So that choice is yours. And just like the person, they have the choice whether to render you the service or whether to give you a discount or not. That's also their choice. So from the perspective of someone who needs help, if you feel getting help from the church member, at least we're the same church, we know each other, I feel more comfortable, confident by having a church member help me, that's your choice. And then in our heart, we need to expect to pay them a reasonable price. That's our mentality. And the person who rendered the service need to say to themselves that the work is going to be done for my brother, for my family. I need to do the best. I need to do the best I can. And then I will charge reasonably. Okay, so this is how it's supposed to work if it's in the church. And yes, charging interest or charging profit for your service is totally legit. But it's purely your choice. But in here, as we are looking at Nehemiah chapter 5, is not the case. They were taking advantage upon other people's demise. The Israelites, they have to work, they have to build the city wall, but at the same time, they need to pay their bill. They need to pay their tax. They still need to pay their expense. So for the nobles, they saw the opportunity, like a blood-sucking vampire. They saw the opportunity by stepping and bite on the people when they were in the weakest time, when they were weakest in their finance. You need the money to pay the king. You don't have money. You need the money. And then they come in, they give you money, they charge you super high interest, and you have no choice because, you just need the money. So you took the money and you were unable to pay that super high interest rate. And they say, no problem. Don't worry, keep the money. Give me your children. So that they sell the children, so that they can take your children and sell them as slave. So this is where the problem is. When you are taking advantage upon other people's suffering, the law will deal with you so severely. The Bible told us that if you take advantage, if you bully the widow and orphan who are powerless against you, then the law will come in and the law will kill you and make your wife and make your children widow and orphan. That's very severe. The Bible also mentioned about the punishment. the punishment for Edomites. The Bible also mentioned about in the minor prophet, the punishment for the Edomites. And why? Why the Lord punished them so severely? The Bible says that because when your brethren, they were being taken captive, that you stood by their gate, you watch with no mercy, and you even mock, you make fun of their devastation, and you also involve in plunge them, in loot them. So the Lord said that the Lord will deal with you, for you shouldn't fold your hand and stand there and mocking your brother in their day of woes. Okay, so be careful that when you see someone, especially your brethren who are in need, that's not the time. That's not the time to take advantage of them. That's the time to extend our helping hand. Because when you do it to the poor, you lend it to the Lord. Okay. So now Nehemiah, he was facing a very serious situation, and the situation could cause a great conflict, even to the point it could literally break the community apart. As we say that now we are looking at the social injustice. That the powerful, the noble, they were suppressing the poor and the peasant. So what would you see next? The next thing that you will see is when people were fed up, then you will see a riot. Okay, it is very common. You see that in the history of human beings. You know that you see that in human history all the time. The greedy, the upper class being greedy, and being greedy beyond control. The result is the lower class rebelled and burned and killed all the noble and the wealthy. Okay, when the social injustice reach to certain level, it becomes the whole society will reform or will have to reset. Just like what we see in the Cultural Revolution. In more than that, you will see that how the peasants overturned the government, overturned the power, overturned all the authorities, because they got nothing to lose anyway. So this is what happened in time of Nehemiah. But as we say, at this time, it could turn out pretty ugly. It can totally break this newly united community apart. As we say that by building this wall, it united the heart of people to return to God. It united the spirit of people that we are the chosen one. We are the descendant of Abraham. We are restoring the glory of David. You know that they are restoring the spirit of Israel. But the noble, because of their greediness, they were breaking this spirit apart for their selfish agenda. So then here we see how Nehemiah handled the situation. Let's turn to chapter 5, verse 6. And I became very angry when I heard their outcry, and these words. 7. After serious thought, I rebuked the noble and ruler. Okay, so then here we see that Nehemiah took 3 different steps in handle a very, very serious matter that could cause the collapsing of the entire work. It can totally sabotage all the work that they have accomplished. Number 1 in here says that Nehemiah said, I heard. What does it mean? If you look at the social class, if you look at the hierarchy of the social class. Out of that social pyramid, Nehemiah is on the top, all the way on the top, because he was the governor of all, governor of the entire region. So he was on the tip of the social pyramid. And usually social pyramid, the higher you are, the farther you are away from the bottom. Why? Because you care about people next to you in the social level, because you are able to mingle, you are able to exchange profit, exchange interests. And the peasants and the low class, they are too far away from you, that they got nothing to offer to you, and there's nothing in them that you are interested about. So usually in the social pyramid, the top does not care or associate with the bottom. That's why we called it the power pyramid, like the power level. But in here, Nehemiah, who was supposed to be on top of the social ladder, that he was able to humble himself and hear all the words of the people. He was able to know what they were saying. He was able to know what they were thinking. He was able to know what their need is. And that's the differences compared many other leaders. Many leaders, they care about how to maintain their power. And you maintain your power by having support of the upper class. Just like, in United States, if all the U.S. system, but if all the senators support you, then you become the head of the house. If I don't know, I'm just saying. If you need the support of the powerful in order to maintain your reign, your control of power. But in here, we see that, number one, Nehemiah was able to bend down and able to hear the voice of the humble. That's something that we need to learn. Remember what Jesus said. For those who give a cup of cold water to the least among you, to the least. Why the least? You know that the Bible specifically say what the least. The Bible could say that give the water to anyone among you. It very much might sound or mean something similar, but no, the Bible say to the least, 小子, to the least, the most insignificant, the powerless, the one that cannot give you anything in return. You give them a cup of water, you have to be rewarded. Okay. And remember how the Bible described that King Solomon, very often we emphasize upon the wisdom of King Solomon by making judgment between the two mothers to find out who is the mother of the child, the living one, right? We all know the story. And we always are amazed by the wisdom of King Solomon. Yeah, just chopped it to half, and two mother half. Very often we amazed by the wise verdict of King Solomon to come up to find out who is the true mother. But did you notice the Bible say that these two mothers, they were prostitute. They were prostitute. King Solomon, the wisest king, the most powerful, who was super wealthy and inherited all the power from King David, he was on the top of the chain, on the top of the social status. And these two women who were prostitute, they were like low and the lowest. But the Bible says that King Solomon heard their case personally and help them in their case. Okay, so that's the first thing you need to hear. Bend over, humble yourself to hear the words. All right, so this is the first thing we see in here about Nehemiah. And the second thing, after he hear what they say in verse 7, he said, after serious thought. That's another problem that we see today. Impulsive. People giving into emotion. People giving into anger and feel that we are being angry for the sake of God. We feel that we are having this anger of righteousness. We need to right the wrong. We need to voice for the weak. We are the, that we are the ambassador of justice for the people in need. Very often, quite often, that's our reaction when we hear something. We hear something that we feel is wrong. We hear something we feel is unjust. We feel something that we feel is unfair, that the person is being bullied. And then with all the emotion and all the sense of justice, we jump out and we snap and we want, and then we voice ferociously and trying to justify the case, for we believe we believe we are having the wrath of righteousness. Okay, 易怒, we are being angry for God. But very often, at the same time, at the end of the case, or at the end of the drama, whatever you called it, very often that at the end of the drama, then you realize that you were the fool. You were the fool. Why? Because you were in such a rush. You were in such a rush. Like you are unable to think thoroughly. You were directed by purely your emotion. And you only hear one side of the story, and then you are overwhelmed by your anger. So though that you might think you are performing justice, but at the end, you might be the one helping the evil, and you might be the one that bully the victim furthermore. But you just thought that, hey, I knew the story, I knew everything, I heard it, so it's time for me to right the wrong. So then here, the second thing that Nehemiah remind you and I, that before we are carried over by, before we are overcarried by our emotion, before we convince ourselves that we are the ambassador of righteousness, stop and slow down, and make sure that you are able to think thoroughly, able to observe thoroughly, so you know what is the true story behind it, so that you don't make yourself a fool. In the book of Proverbs, there was a verse, a proverb said that, that in the book of Proverbs, it talk a lot about foolish men. Okay. But in the book, in Proverbs, he also said, have you seen those who are quick-tempered or who are very rush? Have you seen those who are very rush? And I was trying to translate from Chinese to English. 行事急躁的, and it says that even the fool has more hope. Even the foolish man has more hope than those who are very, very, very impulsive, very rush. Okay, so that's another reminder. Before you snap, before you jump, before you trying to right the wrong, make sure that you know what you are doing. So then here, the second thing is Nehemiah think thoroughly about the whole plan. And number 3, in here says that he rebuked the noble and ruler. Earlier, as we mentioned, in order to fortify, we mentioned last week that Nehemiah, though that he was the governor assigned by the king, by the emperor, But you have to remember, he came to Jerusalem as a foreigner. He came here not knowing anyone. He came here not having anybody on his side. People that that he can trust. Okay. So for him to land in Jerusalem, he arrived only with the name as the governor, but without the assistance, without the cooperation of the authority, the cooperation of the leader, of the local leaders. He might not be able to make any comments. He needs the noble, he needs the high priest, he needs the leader, he needs the official to be on his side in order to carry out his direction or his command. So supposedly, as a wise governor, he should gather all the powerful around him in order to strengthen his control over the region. But in here, the Bible says, I rebuke the noble. I rebuke. That he was taking a career, he was jeopardizing his career by rebuking the noble. And after that, the noble become passive. The noble become, incooperative. When you say, let's mobilize the people, the noble come back and say, oh no, they are busy. And they say that, noble, go and tell them what to do. Noble say, yeah, I tried, but nobody listened to me anyway. You know that the noble can passively stop you from doing anything useful. That all your command does not go out and reaching out to the countryside, does not reaching to the people. Okay. So at this time, by rebuking the higher social class, he is taking a jeopardy on his in his career, and he is making a move that's not very smart, politically speaking. But in here, for Nehemiah, it's never about gathering people around him. It's never about being politically correct. It's never about build up his own power enrichment. It's never about any of those. From the beginning, Nehemiah knew very well all his power come from God above, not from the noble, not from the official, and not from the high priest. He was able to do everything because God is by his side. Okay? So now he rebuked the noble and point out their evil deeds. Okay. So the third thing that we need to be reminded, brothers and sisters, there are times that we need to be courageous enough to do the right thing. And doing the right thing might mean that you need to face some uncomfortable consequence. Like how Jesus cleansed the temple. You know that when he cleansed the temple, nobody say, thank God, good job, hallelujah, praise to the Lord. Nobody. Everybody was angry at him. The merchants, the priests, that everybody were angry at him because now he is making their work or their business more difficult. Or by doing what he did, he shamed the people. Just like the light go into the darkness. And then all the cockroach in the darkness, I don't like the light. I don't like the light. You are so annoying. So you know what? Those people who were so used to do the wrong thing in the wrong way, but they were okay because everyone is doing it. Well, I guess everyone is doing it. It's okay. But when Jesus came in and overturned the table, and by telling them that you are making the house of Lord the den of thieves, it's like the light shine into the darkness, and all the cockroach, they hate the light. and nobody likes it. Same thing in here. Same thing in here. But Nehemiah chose to do the right thing instead of doing things pleasing other people. That's another thing that we need to keep in mind. That make sure that as we are facing or handling a situation, that we need to make sure, number one, we are able to hear the cry of the least. Number two, no rush. Make sure that we are able to think thoroughly, observe, and know what we are doing. Number three, for the sake of God, we are willing to do the right thing, even it means that we might need to suffer. We will continue after the break. Let's all pray in silence. Amen. Hallelujah. In the name of Lord Jesus Christ, we shall continue our class. So now in this class, in this section, we want to continue to go to chapter 6. So now the enemy that Nehemiah were facing in chapter 6, that we are having a thorough, a more complete overview, a better scope of the enemies that Nehemiah deal with, or the one that Nehemiah need to face. I know that start from chapter 2 and on, we have been bringing up different the enemies that were trying to stop, trying to hinder the work of building the city wall. We did not mention anything about those enemies because in chapter 6 is very much overall that in chapter 6 it brings in all the enemies. And now we are seeing enemy from a few different aspects. We are seeing external enemies. We are also seeing internal enemies. So we want to talk about chapter 6 as a warning for you and I, that as we are rebuilding or restoring the city wall, the wall of the holy city in our life, in our heart, then you will for sure seeing the enemy come to you, trying to attack you and bring you down, both internal and externally. Okay. Before we go on, before we continue, I think there is one question in Q&A. There's one question in Q&A regarding to this class. So let me touch upon that question. The question from Q&A is regarding to chapter 1. In chapter 1, when chapter 2. In chapter 2, verse 5 and 6, 5 and 6 is about, now the king said to me, the queen also sit next beside him, how long will your journey be and when will you return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a time. The question is about if why is the king asking him to set a day? Is it just out of courtesy? Why is it hold on, let me see if I can get you the exact question. Give me a second. Q&A 2020. Okay, Q&A. So the question, hold on. Question for the class. All right, so the king asked Nehemiah when Nehemiah will return. Does this mean that Nehemiah could get his job back, or was the king just asked out of courtesy? Okay, of course. Oh, thank you. Now I see the slide. Of course, I was that I'm not the king Artaxerxes, and I wasn't there, and so we do not know exactly why the king asked for a returning day. Okay, there might be many reasons, and only the king can tell you why he asked for that. But from here, your question is, does that mean that he can get his job back? I don't know, but I think that at the same time, the question showing that the king likes him a lot. The king wants him to come back. Okay. The king said, okay, you can go, but you know what? You need to come back. So tell me, how long will you be gone? You know that it is the king Artaxerxes, he doesn't need to do anything for courtesy. He was the ruler of the huge empire. He doesn't, unlike you and I, a lot of times we need to speak out of courtesy. The king doesn't. He get to say whatever he want to say in whichever the way that he want to say. So if it's out of courtesy, it shows that the king treating Nehemiah as a friend, not only as a subject. If it's asking for him to return and get his job back, it means that the king really, the king and Nehemiah, they were very close, like good friends. So he really want Nehemiah to be by his side. So either way, it shows that Nehemiah was taking a very important role in the eyes of the king. But at the same time, you have to understand all the friendship. Well, I would say most of the friendship fades as time goes and you do not see each other. Do you have good friends? Oh, yeah, you all have. Yeah, you have friends. Yeah, I know. Do you have very close friends? Maybe you say, yeah, I have a best childhood buddy. We grew up together since kindergarten. You know what, Troy? If you are not in contact in the last 10 years, then you are just acquaintance. Even in your mind, you're like, oh yeah, we are buddies, we are very close. But if you haven't seen each other or contact each other for 10 years, even you run into, you get all excited. Wow, so haven't seen you for a long time. Let's go get it. Let's go to get a Starbucks. And then you sit in the Starbucks. Then you look at him, he look at you, and you're like, got nothing to say. Why? Too long, too far. Okay. So, oh yeah, that's the case. That's how it is. That's how it is. But of course, if your friend and you were continuously catching up all the time, that's different. But we are saying that Nehemiah is walking away from his position. So he is, number one, taking a risk of slowly distancing himself away from the king. Number two, being replaced by those people who have been waiting a long time to replace him. Okay. So even if he one day after a while he came back, things could be very different because now there might be someone else who happened to please the king a lot during his absence. And by the time he came back, he was no longer the best friend of the king or the favorite official of the king. So that's what we meant by he's taking a high risk of his career. Okay, that's the question we want to address. Now let's continue to chapter 6. Now we want to look at the enemy. There are three names. There are three names continuously appear throughout the book of Nehemiah. Let's go to chapter 6, verse 1. Now we are looking at the external enemy. Chapter 6, verse 1. Now it happened when Sanballat, Tobiah, Goshen, the Arab, and the rest of our enemy heard that I had rebuilt the wall, and that there were no break left in it. Then Sanballat and Geshem sent me, saying, "Come, let us meet together among the village in the plain of Ono." Okay, so that's an interesting name for the plain. Ono. In Hawaii, it means tastes good, right? Ono. Okay, I don't know. But then here we are seeing the three names that appear constantly throughout the entire book of Nehemiah. And let me tell you, they represent the enemy that we will continuously face in our entire warfare, in our entire journey, in this warfare, in the journey to heaven. So we are seeing Sanballat, Tobiah, and Arabic and Geshem, the Arab. So what do they represent? Of course, this is an elaboration upon the teaching. Different pastor, they might give you different life application, different teaching. But I would like to share with you my what I have received or how I proceed in these verses. If you go to chapter 2, verse 19, chapter 2, verse 19 say, Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite, Geshem the Arab. So then here, the Bible gave three names or three different the background of their enemy who continuously opposing Nehemiah and also the job and also rebuilding the wall. So from the background, from how the Bible described them, that we learn Sanballat was the Horonite. Okay, but why Horonite? You know, when we mention the name Horonite, you probably do not feel anything because you don't know where that is and you don't know what kind of people they are. According to different research, many Bible scholars believe that Horonite is in Samaria. And they also believe Sanballat was the governor of Samaria. Just like Nehemiah was the governor for Jerusalem, Sanballat or Tobiah, or, you know, they are all local leaders, local chief, local, you know, they represent, their country were controlled by the Persian Empire, and they were all colonized, just like the Israelites. So Israel is on at this time, the land of Judah is only a province, probably not even a province. It's just part of this huge Persian Empire. So the same with either the Samaria or from the either Samaria or Ammonite or Arabic. They were all under the supremacy control of the Persian Empire, and they were all the governors or leaders under the colonization of Persian Empire. So at this time, in my giving, in something that I would like to share with you, Samaria, okay. Horonite. Well, I was reading some information that in Persian, Horonite, they were a group of people who were immigrant forcefully by the empire. The empire, you know, that the empire relocated to Samaria to Samaria. And so Haranite, the people of the Haranites is one of a group, one of the race, or one of a tribe that were relocated to Samaria. So what happened in Samaria is that after the kingdom, the northern kingdom of Israel were destroyed, they were under the control of Assyrian Empire. We all know this, right? So Assyrian Empire wipe out or destroy northern kingdom of Israel. But one thing very interesting about Assyrian Empire, they love moving people. You will find in the history that Assyrian Empire, they love to relocate people, move them around and mingle different people with different background, different language, different culture, and different religion. So Persian Empire, they love to mingle all different race, different people into one city, because by doing so, lacking of communication, lacking of mutual background, lacking of mutual belief, it becomes very difficult for anyone to gather, to gang up the entire city to rebel against the authority. So they do that. So Samaria, after Samaria were besieged and taken down by Assyrian Empire, they did the same thing. They did the same thing in the north. So they also move people around, especially the capital, the city of Samaria. And that's why in the city of Samaria, there were so many different people, including Israel, including the Israel people, but there were also many other people. So as the result, they mingle, including intermarriage. That's why Samaritan or Samaria, they were considered unclean, filthy. And that's why you can see from the example in John chapter 4 when Jesus talked to Samaritan woman, the woman is like, why are you talking to me? Like, you people don't tell you do not, you look down on us. How would you ask water from a Samaritan woman like me? Like, it doesn't make sense, because Jewish people consider the mixed blood unclean or compromised. They consider compromised blood filthy. That's why for the religious people, for the religious Jew, when they travel, they will purposely make a big detour to avoid the city of Samaria, to show that they are devoted, they are pure, they don't want to be defiled by that city of compromising. Okay, so from that perspective, if we look from that perspective, the first challenge when we want to build the wall, when we want to restore our faith, when we want to take a different journey, the first challenge we are facing is compromising. Yeah, you can go and worship your God, but not all of you, just the male. Yeah, you can go and worship your God, but don't go too far, just somewhere close. Yeah, you can go and worship your God, but just people, not the animal, not the livestock. What am I talking about? You know, right? This is what Pharaoh said to Moses when they asked to get away, to depart from the land of Egypt. Okay, Pharaoh said, yeah, no problem. We can work some deal. We will work things out. But yeah, leave your wife and your children in here in the land of Egypt, so that eventually you come back. Don't go too far. Let's stay connected. You know what? You can go worship your God, but we can still be very well connected. So eventually I draw you back. Leave your livestock, all your wealth in here, so that even physically you are heading out, but your heart is always in here in the land of Egypt, so that one day you will return to the land of Egypt. That's what the Lord. That's how Satan played the game. That's how Pharaoh played the game. You know what? The world wants you to compromise by telling you Yeah, you can read Bible, but just don't read too much because you need time to do your own things. Don't pray. Yeah, pray, no problem. But don't pray so hard. You have been working very hard throughout the day already. Yeah, you can go to church, just not all the time. Remember, there's a new game waiting for you. So you know what? The world is keep on asking you, be friend with you. Just compromise. No problem. Not that big of a deal. So the first problem we are facing is the world tell you it is okay, but don't get too far away from me. Okay, so that's symbol, the horror night, representing a life of compromising. But the problem is, if you're always compromise, eventually you don't get to go anywhere. A faith of compromising is no different than no faith at all. Why do I say that? We can look at the example in the Bible. Let's turn to 1 Samuel. Turn to 1 Samuel chapter 7. 1 Samuel chapter 7, verse 2. Verse 2. 1 Samuel, let's read verse 2, verse 3. Joyce Chen. 1 Samuel chapter 7, verse 2 and 3.
2. So it was that the ark remained in Kirjath Jearim a long time. It was there 20 years. And all the house of Israel lamented after the Lord. 3. Then Samuel spoke to all the house of Israel, saying, If you return to the Lord with all your hearts, then put away the foreign gods and the Ashtoreth from among you, and prepare your heart for the Lord, and serve him only. And he will deliver you from the hand of the Philistines.
Thank you. So then here, this is a story in time of Samuel. But if you look, they have the Ark of Covenant, signify the abundance of God. They have Samuel, one of the greatest prophet in all time. The Bible did say, every word out of the mouth of Samuel, God made it happen. Okay, so he was one of the greatest prophet throughout the whole time. So you have the Ark of Covenant, and you have Samuel as your spiritual leader. And at the same time, you are worshiping God. But did you realize that they were still under the oppression of the enemy and unable to break free? Why? And here made it very clear, because they were not concentrating in God. That they want to embrace God. They believe in God. They worship God. But at the same time, they want to embrace the world. That they love the world. They cannot let go of the world. So you see that here is the dilemma. Not that the Israelites did not know it is good to worship God, but they know it's good to worship God, but at the same time, they are unwilling to let go of the idol or the world. So when you embrace both, it's no different than that you do not believe in God at all, because nothing is different. Nothing is different. You have Samuel, you have Ark of Covenant, but nothing is different. You are still under the oppression of the enemy for 20 years. For all this time, the ark was sitting there for 20 years. Were you delivered? No. Why? Because at the same time, you are unwilling to let go of the idol. Okay? So holding God and holding idol at the same time is equivalent to holding idol. Believing God and loving and greedy for the world is no different than don't believe in God. There's no differences. Okay, so then here, the first one that we see is a life of compromise. When you try to worship God and worship idol at the same time. Now they both are significant in you. You know, that's why Jesus asked you, there are two kings. There are two kings. The king of heaven above and the king of the world. Which one will you serve? It's a choice that you have to make. Second is about Tobiah. That in here, Tobiah the Ammonite. The background, Ammonite. So we all know about Ammonite. Ammonite came from what? Came from Lot. You probably also know that after Lot, Abraham's nephew, after Lot escaped from the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, out of fear, he was hiding in a small cave with his two daughters. His wife became the pillar of salt. So because his daughter grew up in city of Sodom and Gomorrah, so I guess influenced by the environment, the daughter holds a different moral standard. So the daughter say, hey, you know what? There are no other men in here, only, just us and father. So might as well just, get a child from the father. So they drunk. They give the father wine. They get the father drunk. And then they got children from the father. Okay? So what is Ammonite represent? Ammonite represent an unlawful lust. You know that in your Q&A, quite often the question is, a lot of question is about marriage, relationship, or even some pertaining to sexual relationship. Please remember, sexual intimacy is a gift from God for husband and wife. So if it's used legally according to the Bible, if it's used biblically, it's a gift from heaven. But if it's used against the principle of the Bible, then that gift turn into a curse. And that aroused the anger, the wrath of the Lord. Okay, so now we are talking about that Ammonite came from the lust, which has the negative negative connotation. This is a lust from human desire. Okay, so in here, a second reminder that might hinder you and I from building the spiritual wall is that when we become the Ammonite who gave into the lust. Lust and desire is different, no? We're talking about lust. Lust is that you are giving in, surrender to your physical want. Also, another enemy that stop you from building the wall, from serving the Lord, from taking a different journey of life, from making your life glorious, is that when you are giving in or control by lustful desire. That's why Apostle Paul warned you and I, we shall flee from the useful desire. Do not give, because that if you give in, eventually you look back and then you only end with regret, only end with a lot of only end with sadness. That you will only say to yourself, why did I do that? Now I can only spend my entire life pleading for God's mercy and waiting for the judgment with unknown. So let's turn to the book of Ecclesiastes, the book of Proverbs. Let's turn to the book of Proverbs, chapter 5. This is when a young man gave himself in to the useful lust. Proverbs chapter 5, from verse 11 and verse 12. Benjamin Chou. Proverbs chapter 5, verse 11 and 12.
Verse 11, you mourn at the last when your flesh and your body are consumed. 12, and say, how have I hated instruction? My heart despised reproof.
So in here, this is the consequence that you look back, you only find regret and anguishment upon yourself. And you can for the rest of your life, you can only say to yourself, if I could go back, I would not. But you know what the thing is? You cannot go back to the past and change. There's nothing you can do, but you have to live with it. So that's something that we need to be careful, because that's another reason that can hinder you and I to live out an extraordinary life. This is the way that can hinder you and I to make our life a precious vessel for the Lord when the vessel is broken. Okay, so that's the second danger, second enemy. The third, it talk about Arab. It talk about the third person named Geshem the Arab. Also, we go to where Arabic people came from. Arabic were the descendants of Ishmael from Hagar, the son of Abraham's wife. Okay, so God said to Abraham, you shall have a son. Abraham wait for a long while and say, nothing, don't worry. I use my own way. So human will or human decision, that become the third obstacles in building the wall. Or you can even go further from personal will. You go into pride. Okay. So what is personal will? Personal will means that I control my life. I do what I want to do. Okay, that's personal will. Personal will means that I am the ruler of my life. I get to decide how I want to conduct my life or how I want to proceed to the holy work. That's another danger. Because it can happen to anyone, especially those who are talented, those who are able. You know that many of you are in your generation, you are smart, you are very well trained, you are highly educated, you are smarter than the previous generation, and you know more because of all the information you got throughout the world, through internet. So yeah, you are more capable, you are wiser, you are more talented than the previous generation. But when it comes to conducting our life, and also regarding to participating in holy work, if in your life you have a lot of this I, you know that this is an I generation. Everything is about I. I want to do it in this way. I think this is this is the best way. So everything must listen to me. Everything is my way or highway. That eventually you might build a wall. You might even erect a huge city, but that's not Jerusalem. That's not the holy temple. And that's definitely not the wall for the house of the Lord. You are building the wall, you are building a city, but for yourself. You become the God that you worship. And we call that idol worshiping. Okay. So do not think just because you are participating in church work that you are building the wall for the Lord. If it's a lot of I, my way, my decision, my desire, nobody told me what else to do, then you know what? You are building your own wall. You can put in so much effort, but nothing accountable in the eyes of the Lord. So be very careful. You might spend your entire life building something at the end. It has nothing to do, or it is not counted worthy of anything in the eyes of the Lord, because it's never done for the Lord. Remember in Genesis, he talked about the descendants of Cain. What did they do? They built cities with the name of their children as the name of the city. The city were never for God. The city were for their own glory. Okay. And when they built the Tower of Babel, what did they say? We will make our name known. Right? They are also building something. Building something doesn't mean you are building it for God, even you do it in the church. So the third reminder about the Arab is when you have a lot of very, very strong I, a lot of self, it becomes a great hindrance for you to build a city for the Lord. Okay, so now we see the three enemies. Now we want to continue. We want to see the three method that that were used upon Nehemiah. Verse 2. That Sanballat and Geshem sent to me, saying, "Come, let us meet together among the village in the plain of Ono." But they thought to do me harm. So what is it in here? When you read in here, what do you see? It shall remind you in chapter 4 when we say that the Israelites, that the Jew came to Nehemiah, say, that we are too close for the Jew who live close to the enemy. He said, come to us for help. Too close to the enemy, right? So now in here, Sanballat came and said to Nehemiah, hey, you know what? We need to meet. I got something important I need to talk to you about. Let's go to a place in a remote area, in a village, that we can have our secret conversation. I'm telling you some secret. I'm giving you something very important. Come. It's good for you. So what happened? If you go in the middle of nowhere, you meet with them in their territory. Then you know that anything can happen. You go there, they set up the trap. You go there, they kill you. You go there, you never come back. Why? Because at that generation is a vast wilderness. You go out, what happened to you? Nobody know. You take a journey, you are bitten by a snake, you die. You are on the journey, you ran into bandit, you ran into robber, they kill everybody, they took your stuff. And then Sanballat can only report to the king, we don't know. We were waiting for him, but he just never show up. Put yourself in dangerous situation, result in high chance of your casualty, chance for you to die. So you know that what is that young man? The young man who sit on the window panel, Eutychus. Now Eutychus. So Eutychus, a young man who sit on the window frame, and then he fall off, and then he died. End of story. But why? Why was it him? Why was it not someone else? Because he decided to sit close to danger. So in here, when they say to Nehemiah, let's meet in this small place, in a village, in this secret place. Come. We got something. I got something good for you. Come. Nehemiah say, no, they want to do me harm. I'm not going. So what does that remind you? Number one, do not get yourself do not put yourself in harm's way. Okay? Especially those secret, nobody know. Come, I got something good to show you. You know, when you hear that, you need to run away because that brings forth death. Ask yourself, why are you hiding your computer screen from your parents? Why is your hand always on alt and tab, ready to switch the screen when there are people around? Why are you putting so many different lock, passwords, fingerprints on your phone, especially in your photo section? What is in there that cannot be seen? Because, you know, Sembala say, come, let's go to a place, secret, nobody know. And there I shall kill you. Student from New York probably know, when I was there as the resident minister there, after the service, I might walk around talking to the member, and I might randomly just go over and snatch the phone from the youth's hand. I know. I was mean. I was just, something is just hard to change, okay? But at least I don't do that when I come to California, all right? So that's what I did in New York. I just snatched the phone, and then just from the reaction of the youth, that killed me a lot. Some youth just like, gave me this stare, just roll their eyes, and they were like, again? And some just like panic as the world is coming to an end. They were even jump on me and attack me in order to get their phone back. And that killed me a lot too. You know that when you find a phone with like all this lock and fingerprint on all this different folder in the photo album, I don't know, that probably that should say a lot to you yourself as well. Okay, so be careful, because what Satan wants, what did the Bible say? The Bible say you just strike down the shepherd, and then the sheep will scatter. What is the easiest way to ruin the prosperity of the church? You know that the church were all active. Everyone were very strong in preaching the gospel. Holy Spirit prosper. What is the easiest way to stop the work? Is by cutting down the worker. It causes so much more damage to the church by cutting down the worker. Same thing. What is the easiest way to ruin the faith of next generation? By cutting down the RE teacher. Right? The student at the age of looking up to their teacher. My teacher. I love my teacher, the best. You know, all this, and suddenly they realize that my teacher doesn't come to church anymore. You know that it causes much bigger and greater damage when you take out and cut down the head. So be careful, because you are the head. You are the shepherd. The student looking up to you. For those of you who are married with kids, your children looking up to you. And when you are cut down by Satan, by the enemy, it causes devastation upon those who rely on you or look up to you. It's not so simple. You know, be careful. For those of you who are RE teacher, you need to pay extra careful, for they are people who look up on you, just like the Israelites look up to Nehemiah. Can you imagine when everyone were, oh, Nehemiah, our leader, Nehemiah, voice for us, Nehemiah, you know that he is the one leading us to draw near to God. And the next thing that you know, Nehemiah died. You can imagine the catastrophic result of that if that happened. So number one, Be wise. Do not put yourself in harm's way. Okay? Very straightforward, very simple. Nehemiah said, I'm not going. I'm not going. I'm not going anywhere near you guys. I'm not going to have this secret meeting with you. Okay, so this is the first method that they want to, this is the first method that Satan wants to cut you down, by destroy you, by seize away, by snatching your faith away from you. Okay, by giving you, by taking you to a place that you shouldn't be. Maybe under the influence of your friends outside, maybe under the peer pressure, maybe under the pressure from your coworkers or your boss. But that's what Satan wants. Okay, number 2, let's go to chapter 6. Chapter 6, verse 5. Then Sanballat sent his servant to me as before, the 5th time, with an open letter in his hand, and it was written, it is reported among the nation that, and Geshem said that you and the Jews plan to rebel. Therefore, according to these rumors, you are rebuilding the wall that you may be their king. They may be appointed by prophet. Okay, so this is the second. This is a second way, by breaking your heart. Talking too much. So in here, we are seeing the second way to stop you from doing the right thing, is to take away or to break your heart. In here, the way they want to break Nehemiah down is by rumors, by giving rumors. By giving rumors to the king. They say that, Nehemiah, we heard there are a lot of rumors about you. You build this place. You want to be the king. You're going to rebel against the king. You're going to be their king. That's why you build up the wall. So by circulating the rumor, they want to make Nehemiah afraid that king might not trust him anymore, afraid that king might punish him for building the wall. So in order to avoid the questioning from the king, the best bet for Nehemiah is to tear down the wall, to show the king, no, I am not here. I don't want to be the king. Or the best way is return to Susa, return to the palace and stay next to the king, living in good life, very close to the king, so nobody can accuse me for planning to rebel against the king. So you know what? For Nehemiah's personal benefit, he should either take on the wall or return. Just forget about those people in Jerusalem. I need to take care of myself first. Okay, I need to save myself first. So the easiest way out is to return to the king, return to Susa, and just forsake all the work. Just give up, forsake all the work, all the accomplishment that he had done. And then the whole Israel will go back to the old way. So this is the second problem, or the second tactic of Satan, is to melt your heart. As we are serving the Lord, inevitably, as we are serving in the world, in this journey of faith, is inevitably somebody might say something against you. Either out of foul intention, they did purposely try to hurt you, or out of ignorance, they didn't know. They thought that they were saying or doing the right thing. But the fact is, you get hurt. You get hurt. So there are some reaction. There could be some reaction when you are hurt. That your reaction could be out of anger. You retaliate. Okay. Number one, you retaliate and mobilize your resources to become what? A confrontation. Begin from you and another person to become your family and their family, and to involve your friend and their friend. It become what? It become colliding of the church. We call that division. It divide the church into this big family, that big family, and they are like bumping head against each other. And then Satan win. Satan will be like, yeah, no problem, go, bumping head. I love seeing that. Okay. Or the other way, that you do not bump head with other people. But when people rumor against you or people say something, either out of evil intention or out of ignorance, but you feel hurt. So eventually you say to yourself, forget it. Working in the church, I put in my effort, my time, I get nothing. Nobody pay me. Okay? I don't get paid from what I do. Sometimes I even put in my own money. So forget it. You know what? You guys got a problem? You talk all this, then why don't you do it? You know that you can just walk away. You just drop the load and say, you do it, and walk away. That make you feel good. We also call that retaliation. But that retaliation is not upon the other person, but upon God, upon the church. Okay? It make you feel good though. Because when you walk away, you will say, now we see. All right? We see who is going to do it. It make you feel good. But at the same time, when you do that by walking away, you are hurting the body of Jesus. As you are taking that vengeance, as you are taking that anger upon Jesus, not upon the other person. Okay? That's what happens if you walk away. And you lose your heart. You're like, you know what? This is just too much. I work so hard, I try so much, and they just grumble, complain, all this, that. Forget it. Not doing it anymore. Okay? You could lose your heart. But at the same time, when you do that, when you walk away, again, Satan win. Not only Satan win over you as the worker, but win over the church as now one less person serving for the body of Christ. So Satan win both individually or in overall in the sense of the body. When you just decide to walk away, feeling that you were wrong so much that your heart broke. But what did the Bible told us? In the book of Galatians, in Galatians chapter 5, verse 9. Galatians chapter 5, verse 9. And let us not grow weary while doing good. Don't lose your heart while doing good, knowing you are not doing for the compliment or for the applause of someone. You are doing it for God. So if we are able to readjust, we are doing all the things that we do in the church because we are trying to repay God's mercy and love. We are doing all this because we want to earn reward in heaven. We are doing all this because God loves us first. And hopefully by doing that, we will not become weary and swept by the rumors. You know, in here, rumor is what? The rumor is the word of people is trying to sway you back and forth until you are unable to stand firm. The reality is, it doesn't matter how you do things. People are going to say something about you. People could say something about you. They did that to Jesus. Jesus said, when John the Baptist came, did not drink, fasting all the time, people say that he was possessed by demon. When the Son of Man came, he eat and drink. People say that he was gluttoning, the friend of the sinner. So, did you see that if you do not eat and drink, they say that you are possessed by demon. You eat and drink, they say you are gluttoning. You love to eat. Okay? So if you care so much, if all your work, if all your life, you are trying to please people, eventually you don't know how to conduct your life. So be the son of wisdom, knowing what to do that will please the Lord. Okay, so we will end here and we will continue tomorrow. Let's all pray in silence.